making Marines. 12 weeks of United States Marine Corps recruit training.
So that's what look at me now. You are around MCR, this scenario building 622, Pacific Company, you understand?
Yes, sir!
From now on, the only words coming out of your mouth will be yes, sir, no, sir, yes, sir, do you understand?
Yes, sir!
Tens of thousands of Marines have begun their outstanding service on these very yellow footprints. You will carry out that proud tradition to your staff.
Yes, sir! Yes, sir!
Scrimmage!
Yes, sir!
This is the recruit club!
Straight away there, week one, I can see a difference between Royal Marines recruit training and US Marines training. So there's a lot of gobbing off, there's a lot of shouting, there's a lot of in your face. They're like Rottweilers, these guys, these drill sergeants. That's what I see there. They look like Rottweilers to me. They're just barking up close and personal in this guy's face. And what they're doing there is they're putting him under a lot of pressure. So this guy here, he's going to be confused, disorientated, and he's just got two guys shouting from different angles. He probably can't understand what they're saying. I mean, I'm struggling to hear and understand what they're saying, but he just probably hasn't got a clue what's going on. He's got one phone, he's got the phone on that side, I don't know who he's talking to, and then he's got one guy to his right hand side shouting at him, and another guy right behind him shouting at him as well. So he's just going to be confused, and that's just going to make the DS even more annoyed with him, and they're just going to keep shouting. But that is part of training, and the Royal Marines do that, but it's done slightly differently. It's to put you under pressure and to disorientate you, to confuse you, and just to see how you react really to that pressure. Now what you'll see with Royal Marines clips is they don't generally tend to show that, because they don't do it as much on. It seems to be that's all. It seems to be all the time. From what I'm seeing from this is these DS don't seem to ever talk to them. They just seem to shout at them so far in week one anyway. But with Royal Marines training, they do seem to be a little bit more kind of chilled out and a bit more relaxed. The actual training team themselves. But there are instances where you are shouted at and screamed at, and there is disorientation things. But it doesn't seem to be all the time as what I'm seeing here.
You have just taken your first steps in becoming members of the world's finest fighting force, the United States Marine Corps.
These recruits are entrusted to my care.
These recruits are entrusted to my care.
I will train them to the best of my ability.
I will train them to the best of my ability.
I will develop them into.
I will develop them into
Smartly disciplined.
smartly disciplined,
Physically fit.
physically fit,
Basically trained Marines.
basically trained Marines,
Thoroughly indoctrinated.
thoroughly indoctrinated,
In love of foreign country.
in love of foreign country.
I will demand of them.
I will demand of them
And demonstrate by my own example.
and demonstrate by my own example
The highest standards.
the highest standards,
Personal conduct.
Personal conduct.
Rallying.
Rallying.
And professional skill.
professional skill.
It's your job. Take charge of these men and make them Marines.
Aye, aye, sir.
So week 3 here, now I don't really know what I just saw in week 2. I don't know if that was, I thought that was like, I don't know, it just didn't seem to be much happening in week 2. But you know, obviously there is, I'm just seeing a quick video here, but the stuff that seemed to be going on in week 2 in Royal Marines training, like where they've stood there saying the oaths and the attestation is called in the Royal Marines, I don't know what they're calling it there, but all that's done on like the first day or two, so I don't know why they're leaving it to week 2 here. If you're a US Marine, just let me know in the comments below what's going on there. For me anyway, nothing really seemed to happen. They seem to be doing kit musters, they seem to be stood in their room, some kind of physical training and combat training. Let's see what week 3 holds.
Training, so this week we covered McNabb. We also did the band in the Star Force. And we get the recruits ready for transition to the second phase. So before the band took the height and running.
So week 3 now, they're doing a lot of battle physical training, doing assault courses and obstacle courses. And I notice they're doing it in clean fatigue as well, so they're not wearing any kit or equipment. Now where this differs from Royal Marines training is you won't do any of this. In week 3 you're not doing any of this. This is all a lot later on. So it seems to me anyway that they've kind of, I mean I know US Marines training is a little bit shorter, but what seems to have happened here is they seem to have jumped kind of the initial phases of what they do in the Royal Marines, so that's what I can see there. Like they're doing obstacle courses. In the Royal Marines they do gym stuff, so a lot of the exercising they'll be doing in the gym. like circuit training and strength training. They seem to have gone straight into it. They're doing close quarter combat stuff. They're using the bayonet drills and they're attacking them with the rifles. And they're just being shown to be as aggressive as possible. And that's what they're trying to do there. They want to be aggressive. They're screaming, they're shouting. That's supposed to be done to get them really riled up and aggressive. So they're really going for it with this, the bayonet drills.
Faster! Push! Draw! Push up with the rifle! Go faster! Draw! Hurry up!
Ready? Execute! Here we go. Pay attention. Got it? Yes, sir. Execute! 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 Execute!
So right now we're doing the combat fitness test.
It's 2 laps, you understand? Yes, sir. Ready? Go.
You know, measuring their strength, see how they're performing on that.
Get up! Run! Crawl.
It's important for the recruits to experience because this is their first time in recruit training. This is the first time they're learning about the Marines, and for us to throw this on them and have them train like this, it gets in their mindset that this is, it's not just about them anymore. It's not me, it's us. It's about Marines, brotherhood. We also have the senior drill instructor inspection. Basically, we get to see their attention to detail as far as their uniforms.
So that was it. It looks like an official test there would have got it. It's like it must be a pass or fail. So I imagine that if they fail in this one, then they're possibly not going to be able to progress with training. So you're also seeing as well drill inspections. They're going to be stood there. Now, I don't know if they do this every day. I imagine they would be doing it every day. Drill sergeant will usually be walking around here inspecting them. And this guy here now with the glasses, he's not happy because he's been picked up with something. Something's not right. And his life's about to get made a lot tougher.
As far as their cleanliness of weapons and just the knowledge that we've instilled in them since the moment they picked up on us in Fox Company.
Every Marine is a rifleman, but also Marines are amphibious. The events have a 25-meter swim, the 4-minute float, the drop from the tower, overcome your fear of heights, but also initial PFT, test your strength as well as pull-ups, crunches, and 3-mile run.
So straight away now, there's some physical fitness tests have come in. So we've got a swimming test, and he's just said the criteria there. The guys are going to have to pass that. And then after that, then they're doing a PFT. Now where this seems to differ from Royal Marines training is all this stuff will be done right at the start, or possibly even before training in the 3-day PRMC course. You'll be tested on these. So if you can't pass these, you won't go to the training. So straight away I can see that there's a difference there. They seem to have put that in a little bit later on. I imagine they will have some pre-joining fitness tests, but a lot of the tests they're showing here, Royal Marines would have done this before they've actually started training. So it's interesting to see the difference there with that. Now, I don't know if they're having regular training sessions. They must be doing some kind of fitness training and gym routines in the mornings. I'd like to see more of that, to be honest with you. So far, the fitness tests, they all seem pretty standard, pretty basic stuff. Jumping off a diving board to show your confidence. It's going to be a fail if you're going to refuse to jump off, but most people are able to step off. And being able to swim 25 metres is not particularly challenging. Whether or not that's the only swimming they do, or if there's further swimming tests, but straight away I can see that the Royal Marines swimming tests a lot, swimming circuits and swimming workouts, they were pretty demanding. So I can straight away see that there's a slight difference there with that. Now they've got some heavy rucksacks on. Now I'm looking forward to seeing this.
Recruits pack up their equipment in the house and we move up to Camp Pelton, which moves into the second phase, which is rifle marksmanship.
So for grass week, we have the recruits for 5 days, and they get taught about the basic fundamentals of marksmanship. A lot of these guys have never even held a weapon or anything, so it's all the way from how they handle that weapon in a safe manner to placing well-aimed shots in the center of a target up to 500 yards. So fire position, so there's the prone, sitting, kneeling, and standing, and then we teach them every variation. We find what variation works for them, and then we take that, we practice it for that week so they can go down range and apply it. ISMIT, so it's indoor simulated marksmanship training. They use that to simulate shooting downrange, and it gives the recruits an idea of sort of what to expect.
The recruits were in grass week with a 5-mile hike.
So they're working their marksmanship skills there. Now, they do seem to be quite a lot more relaxed at that stage there. I imagine they're it's a lot of the screaming and shouting we saw at the start of it, that seems to have been toned down. Now, whether that's just because they're not showing it or whether they don't want to be screaming and shouting when they've got a live weapon in front of them, but they seem to be taking their time then to actually develop and train them rather than just beating them and shouting at them. So I think, well, I can see what's happening there. They probably weeded out some of the weaker ones and the ones who aren't going to make the cut with the screaming and shouting at the start, so it's almost like a shock of capture and really kind of see what happens to them. So the ones that buckled under that pressure are probably gone. So what it looks like they're doing there is they've got these guys now, they've had them for a few weeks, they've got the potential and they're able to coach them and develop them, and that's what training is about here. I can see it's about developing them rather than just trying to beast them or break them. And comparing this again to my experience in the Royal Marines, it seems to have turned a little bit more relaxed. Like I remember my experience on the ranges, we had 2 weeks on the range and we just got beasted, and it wasn't an easy or pleasant experience at all. But again, I've only seen a snippet of a video, but the emphasis seems to be a lot more on coaching and developing them and improving them, which I think is quite good. So we're on to a 5-kilometre hike.
Marine Division! Marine Division! Yes, sir! California!
This week is our Table 1 relay for the recruits. Many of the recruits, this is their first time ever actually firing a live round. They're taking everything that they did last week, learning how to aim, the proper shot placement, proper stances, proper positions and holds, and they're actually applying that to live rounds this week. They fire all day long, for multiple days before they actually qualify. Every recruit will have a coach standing over them that is willing to help them out and turn them into the marksmen that we need them to be as Marines. The goal of every Marine is to become a rifleman, to become proficient with their weapon, and that's what we're doing here. Is, before they leave out of here, they will be a rifleman first and foremost.
That's good. That is what they're saying there is they will be a rifleman first and foremost. So they really seem to be hitting it home there. They want to develop them to be good marksmen, good at shooting. What I'm not seeing in this video, which I would have expected a lot more, is a lot more workouts, a lot more beastings, a lot more rucking, as the US Marines call it. There doesn't seem to be much of that going on. It must be going on in the background, but then they're not really showing it. I think that's the difference that I'm seeing here from my experience at Royal Marines recruit training, is they've just done a 5-kilometre hike, and the guy made out that was kind of like, this is one of the tests, this is one of the challenges, but in the Royal Marines we were doing that all the time. It seems to be a little bit seems to be a less focus and emphasis on hard ruck marches and forced runs as what we experienced. But again, I'm not really sure if I'm just not seeing that in the clip. There seems to be more development of marksmanship principles at the moment.
So this week, Fox Company had field week. Started the week off, table 2 shooting, which is that close quarter combat shooting. They worked on all those drills that PMI taught them. Those tactical reloads, speed reloads, control pairs to the chest, stop drills. They were put in that combat mindset, and they went out there and they accomplished their mission that they were assigned to do.
So they're doing a lot of CQB drills now here, and we didn't really do as much of that. A lot of the CQB stuff we did in the Royal Marines was actually after recruit training. I don't know if they've changed the program. I imagine they have now from when I was in. So he said this is the field week now as well. Now, with the Royal Marines, going in the field seems to be something that these guys aren't actually doing. We would go out on field exercises where they would gradually put more and more challenging things. We wouldn't live on camp, we'd live out in the woodland or whatever it was the exercise was. I haven't seen any of that so far. I haven't seen any people sort of bivvying up overnight, you know, cooking their food outside, doing camouflage stuff in the wilderness and setting up things like observation posts and doing recce's and things like that. I haven't seen any of this so far, which is very interesting. Possibly you'll be seeing it later on. But the emphasis in the Royal Marines seems to be a lot more going on outdoors rather than being in camp or in more such controlled environments.
Downrange area is clear.
Then they went to the field for their basic warrior training. They went out there and they did an assault course where they practiced low light drills with flares in the air, combat gliding, and how to properly overcome obstacles in the combat territory with a combat mindset. Then they started learning land navigation, how to read a map, how to plot points on the map, and how to find those points they plotted. They worked on it during the day and at night.
Very similar to how the Royal Marines did it there. What they've done is this week they're out in the field, they're learning how to map read. We spent a lot of time doing map reading. We seem to have started doing that long. We seem to have been more engaged with that from the start. Now, what they're going to be doing there is they're going to do navigation stuff in the daytime, get them used to it, make sure they know how to read the map, and then what they'll do is they'll wait till it gets dark and they'll perform a similar route or possibly a slightly different route, but they'll do that in the night time as well, make it a little bit more challenging when you're not allowed to use flashlights or torches or anything like that. So you've got to really practice your skills, and that's what they're doing there.
Team week is first week of third phase. This is a week where we start really transitioning and giving the recruits the responsibilities of taking care of each other, doing the right thing when nobody's watching. They go to different agencies and they just help out, breaking boxes down, cleaning up, stocking shelves, whatever needs to get done around the depot. Also this week we had an interior guard showing the recruit.
No, I've got no idea what that was all about. They seem to be just doing other jobs, other roles. It's not something I've seen of or heard of before. I wasn't aware of that. Interesting how they've decided to make them do that. My guess is it just gets them used to doing other jobs that they're going to have to do. Because what's going to happen is they're going to leave training, they might get posted on a ship or whatever. They might get drafted somewhere where they're going to have to work at a store or whatever. But that just seems to have just picked up that.
It's the purpose of standing duty in a more real life situation. The drill instructors also do scenarios. For example, if somebody comes out the area of operation and the recruits get challenged with tasks like that. The Series Commander's inspection is an inspection done by the Series Commander, and what he's looking for basically is for them to be able to articulate themselves, talk with confidence, demonstrate bearing. It's preparation for company commander's inspection and the battalion commander's inspection.
This week, Fox Company did the inventory PFT, measures the fitness of the recruits since they've been here at recruit training. It's about their middle point, measure their pull-up. pull-ups, crunches, and run time, see how much improvement they made. Did the bayonet assault course where they go through, freaking put their McMap techniques that they learned to the test in a real life scenario. Final Bugle 6 and the Thunderdome, where they'll be doing the final CFT. The CFT is a combat fitness test. They measure the amount of times they're able to lift a 30-pound ammo can. They do a obstacle course that consists of carrying ammo cans, zigzagging through obstacles, low crawling, high crawling, sprinting, and doing a fireman's carry. They also do a 880-meter sprint around the track.
So this week, we actually had our final drill. It's a big thing for the recruits. This actually shows them a lot of pride and discipline. And a lot of things that the drill instructors actually worked hard for to do. And the final PFT, physical fitness test, where recruits are evaluated on pull-ups, crunches, and a run time.
So we've got another PFT. So I'm not sure if this is the third one they've done or the second or third one they've done. Now straight away, the difference I'm seeing here with US Marines training and Royal Marines training is they're still doing this type of training. Now in Royal Marines training, we stopped that after about maybe a third of the way through. And it goes from this type of training where they haven't got weight, they haven't got kit, and it goes to battle physical training. And what happens then is you're doing everything, then you're not wearing shorts, you stop wearing your gym kit, you don't wear that again. So all your fitness will be wearing a full kit. You'll be wearing helmets, you'll be doing it wearing your webbing, which weighs 21 pounds, and your rifle, which weighs 10 pounds. Everything will be with the rifle, so you're getting muddy, you're getting wet, you're going through all the tunnels, you're going through underwater things, you're doing your assault courses, everything's wearing that. And I've not seen any real kind of challenging assault courses at the moment. Whether or not they're not showing it, there might be more things going on, or there's going to be more things going on behind the scenes. I'm just seeing a small clip, but I haven't seen anything really that stands out as ridiculously challenging. It seems to be the same tests over and over again, and they're just being expected to get better scores with each one, rather than the tests themselves getting harder, which is what I would be used to. That's what the Royal Marines training was like. So that's interesting how it seems to have done that. Let's have a look, see what else they've got.
Next thing that we're going to be doing this week is the rappel tower. The rappel tower for the recruits is the opportunity for them to get their last little bit of courage out and show the drill instructors that they actually want to be United States Marines.
So they're doing rappelling or abseiling, as we called it. You can see the difference, massive difference between when we did that style of training. Basically in a very controlled environment. They've got purpose-built rigs for it. They've got a purpose-built rig, looks like they're possibly on the base still. When I did serve with the US Marines, our skills with abseiling in the dark, on actual cliffs, we were, should we say, a lot better than they were. They were caught out with that. I don't think they were quite prepared for doing it, because they don't seem to be as specialist in cliff assaults as the Royal Marines were.
The chamber is filled with CS gas, a non-lethal tear gas and riot control agent, and tests the recruits' knowledge on properly employing equipment used during biological and chemical attacks. The remainder of week 12 is spent undergoing the most effective.
Yeah, so we did that as well, and it's basically they put you in a chamber, they fill it up with CS gas, quite a lot of it. You put your mask on, and then you'll be able to breathe with the gas mask on. But then what will happen then is they'll tell you to take it off, and you've got to perform drills with it, like taking it off, putting it behind your back, taking the gas canister off, things like this, putting it back on, and being able to do it so with your eyes closed. If your eyes open, then you become succumb to the gas. But then also as well, they'll make you take it off and they make you feel the effects of it. And as you can see, that guy, he had snot coming out of his nose, they were all kind of like that. And it is a horrible experience. And what they'll do is they'll make you talk and things like that. They won't just take it off and be like, oh, there you are, you're done. They'll take it off and they'll make you say your name, your number, they might ask you some questions that you've got to answer, so you've got to be able to have your wits about you. They might even make you do some press-ups, star jumps, circuit training, things like that, and you've got to stay there until they tell you to leave. And it's a very uncomfortable experience. doing that, as you can see by the guys' faces. What's interesting is they've done that so close to the end of training, whereas we did that all this more sort of towards the middle of training. So we're on to what looks like the final bit they're saying. Let's have a look.
Defining moment of recruit training, the Crucible. The Crucible is the culminating event of recruit training process. It is a 54-hour field training exercise executed with only 3 meals and 4 hours of sleep per night, designed to emphasize the importance of teamwork and overcoming adversity. The Crucible culminates with a formal presentation of the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor, and officially marks the transition from recruit to Marine.
So that there marks that's their final test for the US Marines. I would like to have seen a bit more of what they have to do. It didn't really seem to be doing much. They were doing bicep curls with a log. So I think what this is, this video, I don't think it's really capturing, for me anyway, what actually goes on. I'd like to see a little bit more. You know, they put 12 weeks into a 10-minute clip, so I get that. But for me, it just seemed to leave a little bit too much. I wasn't really quite sure what else was happening. So looking at that, I would think, yeah, it's definitely going to be something that most people could achieve. They didn't talk about failure rates. There seemed to be so many people there. And looking at that, that is a massive difference between Royal Marines and US Marines. I think that the comparison there is the troop size just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. I think you start off with anywhere between 40 to 60 guys. Then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller as time goes by. There seem to be hundreds of them in that one. I don't know how many people they had in their recruit troop, or I'm not sure what they call it, but within that section or squadron. But it seemed to be quite large. Now there must have been some kind of attrition rate. There must have been some people leaving, but there was no kind. I didn't really say that, which is interesting. I can see why they seem to have condensed a lot of it more. They seem to have jumped through things a lot quicker. And I imagine that if the US Marines is a lot bigger, they've probably got to get a lot more people through the door. So that is the difference I can see there. It doesn't seem to have the intensity as it had at the start throughout, which I wasn't sure whether that would last or not. It doesn't seem to. I guess what happens is as the drill instructors get to know the recruits, they naturally begin to respect them a little bit more, and they know who's an idiot and who's not really going to make it and who they want to work alongside. So I think that's what happens there, is they're horrible at the start. They're probably horrible with them throughout, but they're going to develop a rapport as time goes by, and that certainly happens in Royal Marines recruit training as well. So the difference between the two, I've kind of tried to cover it as I could going throughout. Which is more effective? I don't know. Which is harder? I don't know. I haven't done US Marines training. Obviously I'm going to be biased and I'm going to probably say Royal Marines training is harder because I've actually done it. I haven't done US Marines training, so there could be stuff on there that I'm not seeing, and it could actually be a lot harder. But the criteria tests that they mentioned there, they don't seem to progress in a way that Royal Marines training does. The stuff that I was seeing towards the end of their training would be expected at the start of Royal Marines training, and they get harder and harder and harder and harder as time goes by, and it culminates then. The last test is a 30 miler, which is, I didn't see them doing any distances like that. The only distance they mentioned was a 5 kilometre hike, but I can imagine they would have done a lot more than that. If you, like I said, if you serve in the US Marines and you've got more kind of greater knowledge on what sort of tests they actually do, other than the PFT and CFT, because they were the only real tests that were mentioned, can you just let me know in the comments? Because I'd really be interested to hear. So, because it's great to compare how the two countries do it, and they do work together. There's always that little bit of rivalry between the two, but we are friends. We are on the same side, and I've worked with the US Marines over the years. Well, I say over the years, many years ago when I served in the Royal Marines, and a good bunch of guys. We did mountain training with them up in Scotland, so they came to us. And we tend to do they come to us, we train them with something, and then we'll go to them and they'll train us with one of their skills as well. So when I was serving, they would come to us, so we would train them things like mountain skills. And looking at their training there, I can see why. Because the stuff we were training them, they just didn't seem to do in that video. It would be survival, it would be abseiling, it would be cold weather stuff, it would be going up cliffs, going up mountains, living, surviving in the field for days at a time. I didn't really see that there apart from the last exercise. Now, I don't know if they were expected to stay in the field and live in the field, or if they were going back to accommodation, but they did say they only get about 4 hours sleep each night and 3 meals, but that seems to be around about the same as what Royal were getting in their recruit training exercises. So when I worked with US Marines, those kind of skills did seem to not be as good as ours were, and they didn't seem to have the stoicness, when things got really wet and cold, and this exercise I remember we had 2 weeks with them, and we did a 3-day field exercise right towards the start, and it was cold, it was wet, we were carrying heavy packs, and they all got wet as well, which made it heavier and heavier, and it was pretty miserable. But from the start then I noticed that after a few hours into the first day, when all the laughing and the joking had kind of subsided, the US Marines did really struggle, and what tends to happen to people in general was when they're in that situation, they start to get frustrated, they start to get angry, they start to shout, they're not happy, they start to give up on things, and they start to not stop looking after themselves as well. They might not want to eat the hot meal, they'd rather just kind of sit in the corner, and that seemed to be happening with these, whereas the Royal was kind of trained to recognise that and be able to look after themselves. So I noticed the difference there. We had to kind of force them. Like, one guy was refusing to boil his water to heat his food up, and I was like, look, you need to. I had to force him to do it, because he would possibly go down with some kind of injury, a cold weather injury, if he hadn't done it. But like I said, it's all a teamwork, it's all a learning experience. So we were there to coach them and mentor them. We weren't there to kind of belittle them and say, look, you're doing it wrong. We were there to kind of say, look, this is how we've got to do it because of this reason here. So we did our best to do that. A lot of them did end up in hospital, which was a tough course, and a lot of the US Marines, maybe about 50% of them ended up in sick bay afterwards with ankle injuries and just cold weather injuries and things like that. When we went we went stateside, I didn't personally because I got deployed somewhere else. They were teaching us a lot more CQB drills, close quarter battle drills, a lot more marksmanship drills, which I know that they spend a lot more time doing, and I know they are better at doing that because they just seem to have better access to it, better access to the firing ranges, they've got better technology, and a lot of the drills do seem to be coming out of America. I think that's because they've had a lot more experience in places like Iraq, where they were doing a lot more door-to-door, sort of on the ground, sort of fighting, places like Fallujah, and they were actually able to study what was happening and develop it as well, and they've shared that then with their partners with other countries. So it's all back and forth, it's all teamwork, because we are on the same side at the moment. Anyway, let me know what you think of US Marines and Royal Marines recruit training. Put it in the comments below. Which one do you think's better? Thank you very much, guys, for watching. Take care of yourselves, and see you soon.